So I want to do this video on something that I can always remember is a big deal with me, both when I was still living inside the Matrix, and indeed now. I kind of feel like I'm out the other side of the Matrix and gone through my dark night of the soul process. And part of the reason I've disappeared again over the last few weeks is just because I'm observing my inner intuitions, which is part of the dark night of the soul, which is the separation still of that egoic self, which is why I often say I don't believe we ever actually truly come out of the dark night of the soul. I just believe we find ourselves within it and we get very comfortable in there. And when we hit a down spell, if you like, we don't now worry about that because we've found our true self, our true essence, and we live more in that conscious state. So anything that then goes on in the dark night of the soul, we've been through it before, so we know that everything works out okay in the end. And all of these things are to do with just shedding and creating space up here for a whole new world of information to come in. So that's where I've been for the last few weeks, but I will explain that in another video or in various videos up and coming. But I've been talking to lots of you online and lots of you out in the street and stuff like that, or face-to-face meetings I should say. And one of the things that I notice that comes up all the time is agitation. People feeling this sense of agitation. And we kind of want to blame this feeling of agitation on, like it's just us. Like it's something that we are. It's our disposition in life, and we can't work out why we're agitated. And we don't feel like it's fair that we're agitated. And that's not the same for everyone. But that's on the whole of the people that I speak to the most. It's kind of like they feel like that's their personality. Which is, why am I agitated? Why do I get anxious? Why am I fearful of everything? Well, the truth is that the agitation is not being created by you. Your agitation is being created by your egoic mind. So that mind-made self, everything that's been installed into you. You observing those rules, you observing the matrix mind, the constructed mind that's been put into you, that is what is creating the agitation. And it's creating the agitation because whilst you're observing and serving that egoic mind, you are denying your essence. You are denying your true self of who you are and what you want to do and where you would actually like to go. And don't forget, most of us, when we tap into our consciousness, when we open that third eye and we start seeing the world for what it actually is, we realise that most of the things in life that we are actually chasing, or what we think we would like to do, or we would like to attain, are not actually the things that we would like to attain, or the things that we would like to do. I.e. house, job, career, status, money, great relationship, whatever. Those are things that are very nice. What we are really seeking in life is a sense of peace up here, calmness, our true self, and with our true self, like this stopping of the nagging of the voices that we're not doing something right, or that we should be doing more in life, or creating more in life. That's what most of us would actually like to have, is just a bit more silence going on upstairs in our heads, or in our minds, if you like. But whilst we serve the egoic mind, we are denying that from ever truly coming out. And the thing is, once that does truly start coming out and we lose the fears of being rejected by society or friends, or looking stupid or looking foolish, which is certainly how I feel sometimes doing these videos, especially as I know there's quite a few old friends now that watch this and see this, and they know the old Toby, and now they're seeing this guy, and it must be kind of surreal. And there's always going to be a small part of me that thinks, I wonder what these guys will think the next time when they see me in the street. But hey, every time I see them, everything's fine. And that's the beauty. When you kind of work in your consciousness, you're being authentic to yourself. When you're being authentic to yourself, you're authentic to the world, so the world can't actually ask any questions of you. And anyone who wants to hate on your authenticity is only hating on your authenticity because they're still living through the act. And you have broken down the barriers within yourself that now ignores the judgments and opinions of others, and you go on to live the life that you actually want to live. But what I was going to say is that when you do come into that consciousness, and this will happen to you through Dark Night of the Soul, once you start accepting that it's actually a kind of blessing to be in there, it's the separation of this old egoic self and welcoming into your new authentic self. once you start accepting that and you start coming into that consciousness, those things like a career or relationship, they will come to you from a more holistic avenue. They'll come into your life through, your authentic self will lead you down paths where you want to go, or they will not lead you down paths where you don't want to go. So either way, you kind of find your way through life. You find a much more ambient state of being. And through that ambient state of being, you kind of find that those things gravitate more towards you. Like I can certainly start, most of you know I live in a caravan. There's not a lot of money going on and stuff like that. But I can certainly feel things brewing up on the surface, and I'm not working that. I'm not trying so hard to attain finances or to attain a relationship or to attain a house or a new career. It's kind of just happening. And again, that brings me around to actually why I disappeared for a while. This is all part of where I think the universe was telling me that I need to stop doing videos for a while. I need to come back into more of my spirituality and more of that conscious state, more time meditating, more time out in beautiful nature, and tap back into that side of things, because there were things in me that needed to purge. There were things in me that needed to come out. And yes, they have come out now, or they feel like they've come out, and they've now been processed. Which is what Dark Night of the Soul is. It is just a big processing pot for all of us. And that's where a lot of you guys are now. And so a lot of the agitation or the anxiety that you feel is just the denial and the suppression of your true self. It's like you're annoyed at yourself. The anxiety will just be a fear of the future. And you're basing that fear of the future off of your past. However, your past, as I've said this in other videos, your past was being led through your egoic mind. And whilst you're trying to serve that egoic mind and tick the boxes of the good human book, you're not doing what you actually want to do. You're doing what your mind-made self is telling you to do. Because all of us would have created an act. We would all be creating an act so that we can live comfortably within the matrix. And some of us will even feel like we're doing fine within the matrix. You know, we're living within that confine. We don't know what those confines are in the matrix. We can't see them. But Dark Night of the Soul, which is a ridiculous term. I think it's a silly term, that Dark Night of the Soul. I kind of feel like it should be called something different that's more appealing to people. Dark Night of the Soul gives it this real... It's quite a corny term anyway, but it gives it this real ring of like it's a real devastating, awful thing to have to go through. Whereas actually it's just a gateway to get us to a place of a much calmer way of life, a much more truer existence. I can't think what it would be called, but it could be called something else. Maybe I'll have a think on that and start calling it something different, who knows. But another thing I just want you to bear in mind as well, I was thinking about this the other day. We all know that like Big Pharma or doctors or whatever else will treat the symptom. They won't actually find the root cause of something. So a lot of my videos from this point on are going to be about talking about Dark Night of the Soul, but they're also going to incorporate more as to why we go into the Dark Night of the Soul. Because the Dark Night of the Soul is a symptom. It's a symptom of the bigger process of the system. And it's that symptom. But we need to find the cause. If as humanity we could find the cause of Dark Night of the Soul, which I know what it is living through the egoic mind and serving the puppets, if you like, serving the puppeteers, serving the matrix, serving the mind-made self, serving the beliefs and the traditions that we've been told we need to lead in order to lead a successful life. It's the serving of that creates the Dark Night of the Soul. So if we can, because that suppresses our true self. So we need to identify more and go into the cause of the symptom being Dark Night of the Soul. And I think that's also a very interesting area to see, because when we learn that when we learn how we got into the Dark Night of the Soul, it then makes more sense to us whilst we're in Dark Night of the Soul. And we can also start seeing more clearly where it is that we might want to go when Dark Night of the Soul, when we feel like we're coming to the end of Dark Night of the Soul, if you like. But anyway, I hope that was quite interesting to some of you. It's the first one I've come back in a little while, so I'm still going to be trying to find my flow for a little while. I do think the channel's going to start going down different routes. Thanks to all the guys who sent me emails and asked how I was and stuff like that. Everything's fine out here, guys, but I am, as always, like I say, I am just like you lot. I will go through this stuff sometimes, but I will also live the life that I preach. So I will pay attention to my inner instincts, my inner intuitions, which is, in other words, the vibrations and the energies that are coming from the universe. When we live with that, life becomes a lot more simple to us. And that's kind of where I was at and what I've been doing. And now, hopefully this video, I feel like it's flowing a little bit okay. I feel a little bit rusty. Didn't really know what I was going to say. I just wanted to talk about agitation and anxiety. But I feel like it's gone okay, so I'll upload this and hopefully it goes well, and it's nice to be back on the scene. And yeah, let's just see where the channel goes from here. But I think I'm going to start mixing it up a bit. But I will show you my a bit more of my personal life, if you like, and my spiritual practices and how I kind of cope with things that might be stressful, if you like. So yeah, hopefully you find that interesting. But anyway, it's nice to be back. I love each and every one of you. Hello to the new subscribers, particularly those guys who are coming along and still subscribing, even though I've not been recording for quite a while. So yeah, anyway, and all my old subbies, in fact, all the subscribers and everyone out there. Hello, I love you, and it's good to be back. Peace.